News.com. Now, what's happening in the rest of the country, indeed the world? Here's Charlotte.
Thanks very much, Colin. Good morning. The American and Russian governments are refusing to comment on reports they're planning a spy swap. It's claimed the US could exchange 10 alleged spies recently arrested in return for Russian therapy treatment.
Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's have a quick look at the front pages as they appeared this morning.
302.
A very good morning. You're watching Sunrise. Colin Brazier here with you through until 9 this morning. Still to come, Darren Lewis from the Daily Mirror. He's literally sat there about 5 seconds ago. It was quite entertaining. You should have seen it. But first, let's tell you about our top story. Charges in the hunt for Raoul Moat. News.com. Meantime, the rest of the day's news, and Charlotte's here.
Thanks, Colin. The American and Russian governments are refusing to comment on reports they're planning a spy swap. It's claimed the US could exchange 10 alleged spies recently arrested.
Has ticked another day older.
We were just speculating as to whether Ringo Starr dyes his beard, but perhaps it's a conversation for another time. Anyway, Darren Lewis from the Daily Mirror is here. I'm sure he doesn't, by the way, to go through the newspapers. And you're going to start on a fairly serious topic, actually, Darren.
Well, indeed, because obviously it's 5 years on since the 7/7 July bombings. My own paper, the Daily Mirror, Alison Martin's done this story about the fact that there was no official tribute yesterday to the people who lost their lives. 52 in total in London were killed. And there was no government representative at the Hyde Park Memorial where there were wreaths laid yesterday. There were indeed wreaths laid on behalf of the PM and Boris Johnson, the London Mayor, at the Hyde Park Memorial. But I have to say I would agree with the sentiment expressed that there was no official ceremony. It's 5 years on. Yesterday's low-key ceremony is a very stark contrast to in the US, where they made a great play of the fact that so many people had lost their lives in 9/11. And it's very, very disappointing, in my opinion, that there was indeed no official memorial.
Really? It's a beautiful memorial, but you wonder whether you're going to do it every year, get to 10 years.
Well,
do
indeed,
it
but
then.
every 5 years, 5 years, 10 years, that you could see that. I take the point you can't do something every year officially, but 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I think there is some justification for having something in Hyde Park to remember the people.
Is there
who lost their
justification
lives.
to have a shotgun licence at 10?
Absolutely
a question
not.
posed by The Sun.
This is, I mean, what I'm surprised by with this story is that there's not a bigger show for it. In other words, it's not on a bigger page. There's not more made of this, because in the context of what's happening elsewhere in the country, we saw what happened in Cumbria.
No suggestion for a moment that Raoul Moat is a legal holder of a shotgun, by the way.
No, indeed, and we're not passing any comment on that story. But the point remains that there is an issue with guns and per se. And so the age at which you are allowed to
is there an
have one.
issue or a problem with legal ownership? I mean, there's an argument that runs, the contrary argument to yours, really, Darren, which is that you train kids from a young age to be responsible handlers of firearms. They're not the ones who are going to start using them illegally.
Well, listen, I'm sure there are lots of mums, dads watching who'd be horrified at the thought of their children handling guns. OK, there is, and I've got to, as you suggest, Anthony France has done the story for The Sun. He quotes Glyn Alger from he's the Secretary General of the National Rifle Association. There's no issue if they're supervised and taught correctly. I'm not going along with that. I don't think guns should be in the hands of children. This piece says that this kid, who they're referring to, age 10, one of 49 kids under 18 to hold a shotgun or firearm licence in Bedfordshire, not in the whole country, in Bedfordshire.
Should be water pistols only. I'll tell you what's interesting, set that story against the fact that, there was a school in South London which wouldn't let a 5 and an 8-year-old child cycle to school.
Yes.
10's not too old for a gun. This is a fascinating story, Darren, you've chosen for us about a sports
Yeah, well,
day.
as a dad of 3, this horrifies me, because a school father turned away a school has turned away a father from a sports day because he doesn't have a CRB check. What a load of old nonsense that is. I'm sorry to be so
Does this ring
blunt.
true to you, Darren? Does this send your spider sense tingling a little bit?
Well,
it might not be entirely.
Do you know what I mean? Well, just to give you a bit of background, this guy's called a radio show yesterday, the TalkSport radio show, and gone through his story. The story in the Mail does include a comment from Leicestershire County Council, where the school is based, who say that Parents should have access to school activities. We don't have any guidance that's saying that they should have CRB checks. In other words, it's up to the school itself. And the school have commented in this story and said, we fully appreciate that one parent was upset by our policy. So quite clearly, there does appear to be a ring of truth about this. Regarding our attendance of parents at sports days, I'm sorry, but we are really going to hell in a handcart if a father can't go to school and watch his child perform at a sports day without being CRB checked.
Really hope to goodness that story's twaddle, because if it's true, as you say, Darren, we've got real problems, haven't we?
Indeed.
This is a great headline for a very serious and sad story, actually.
Well, indeed. A sad story, great headline, I have to say. In the Sun, it's Iranian men, hallelujah. Anybody who knows the song will know exactly what I'm talking about. We're
going to sing it later.
Well, indeed, 7:40, me and you. Graham Wilson, their deputy political editor, has done the story. And as you rightly say, it's a serious story because the appeal court, the Supreme Court Justice Lord Roger has said that men should be openly allowed to be gay. I'm not quite so sure that constitutes going to see Kylie Minogue concerts, drinking exotically coloured cocktails and talking about boys with their straight female mates. But that's what he said yesterday, so we have to take it seriously.
It feels like we're dealing with caricatures, but the Weather Girls. We'll get right to the Weather Girls later on.
Of course.
And Jennifer Saunders, briefly.
Yes, very briefly. She, as Charlotte was saying earlier, wanted to keep her battle with breast cancer private. It's on the front page of the Daily Mail today. I only highlight it because she has so many fans. She's an institution in comedy, and we all wish her well, to put it very succinctly. There's a picture of her, I have to say, still looking radiant, despite the fact that she's lost her hair. But we do indeed wish her well, because she is a comedic institution, obviously one half of the French and Saunders double act, and we're obviously very relieved that she's managed to catch it as quickly as she has done.
Amen to that. Darren, thanks very much indeed. We'll talk to you in the next hour. Darren Lewis from the Daily Mirror.
For him to be officially arraigned.
Robert Nisbet there speaking to us a little bit earlier. Charlotte's got the rest of the day's news now.
Thanks, Colin. A man who recently won a legal battle to stay in Britain is back in police custody after being accused of planning terror attacks both here and in America. Abid Nasser was arrested after the full title will be. And the comedian Jennifer Saunders has reportedly won a secret battle with breast cancer. The 52-year-old was seen at Wimbledon last week wearing a wig and a bandana, and friends say she was determined to keep her illness extremely private. They said she was diagnosed last October after finding a lump, but got the all clear last month after finishing chemotherapy and radiotherapy treatment, so some good news there.
Yeah, best wishes to her. Jennifer Saunders there. Charlotte, thanks very much indeed. Let's take you through the newspapers now, starting with The Sun. It's got an interview with...
And in London with the rest of the news.
Jeremy, thanks very much indeed. We're going to have a paper review very shortly in the company of Darren Lewis here. But first, we'll have a roundup of the rest of the news with Charlotte. Charlotte.
Thanks, Colin. The American and Russian governments are refusing to comment on reports they're planning a spy swap. It's claimed the US could exchange 10 alleged spies recently arrested in return